and that's Manson. You can't put him there because he's not technically a serial killer, so I won't.
Not technically, that's right.
Shit, man, this is hard because I could go with Ramirez, I could go with BTK, I could go with Ridgway for sheer numbers, but it's so weird that none of us have even mentioned Ridgway. Nobody gives a shit about Ridgway. He's so swept under the rug.
I mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, but you didn't have him on there.
Well, that's because I figured y'all were going to have him, and he just seems like one of those, like, I don't know, like kind of like no duh, sort of like, of course, going to be.
Johnny will like this. Johnny will like this. He's a stat collector. He's a stat collector, like Dan Marino.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He collected stats. He didn't do anything like beyond that. That's why, like Blake said, if they find a body now, they just attribute it to him. He's a stat stuffer. That's what Vic says.
They're clearing the roles. Come on, they're finding a body and they're clearing the roles. I mean, they're saying what 90 plus or something like that for Ridgway. So yeah, sheer numbers. He was more efficient than most, but no.
I'm going to go with the Night Stalker for the other one. Kemper's a good one. Eileen Wuornos is a good one. I got to go with the Night Stalker with Vic. I think Ramirez is the other one because he had the interviews just like Kemper, but he was also like Kemper didn't really strike fear into everybody during a time period like Ramirez did. He was right up there with those other guys. People scared that they had to lock up at night.
Right. You're right. I mean, Ramirez definitely did scare, but he was a rapist. Just as much as he was as a serial killer, so they didn't really know what they were tracking at that point, right? Whereas, the Santa Clara killer, which was, I granted that's relatively small, but and relatively isolated. I just sort of like, to me, he was a guy that was known in his community, and he was well liked within his. Even the police liked Kemper, so it was a shock to everybody, much like BTK Killer. Like, he was a shock to them. They didn't see that one coming. I view that Dennis Rader as another prototypical one because like I always view the serial killer as the person you're standing behind at the grocery store, and they're buying food, and then they go home and they kill people. But you never know that because they're behaving normally or functioning kind of in society, and that's what Ridgway and that's what Rader and that's what Kemper did. They function in society but had odd hobbies.
Yeah, Son of Sam and BTK, they're good alternates along with Eileen Wuornos, and then I'd put Kemper right behind them because Kemper, he's still around, he still does interviews and all that shit, but I just feel like he was kind of under the radar, whereas all those. Like, they have so many documentaries and stuff. Like, it sucks. When you look up Kemper, there's not a lot of stories about him. There should be. Johnny has a cool fascination with him, which is a good thing. I respect it. I mean, I have people like that, too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always talking about Kemper, yeah.
I've mailed him many times. I've sent him mail many times to try to strike up a conversation, but nothing yet. So.
He's not having it. Okay, so, Johnny, since you are the serial killer quote of the day guy, you got to hit me with some Berkowitz quotes. I'm sure you've got some stashed away for me.
Well, I mean, they're not normal. I mean, you've probably heard them all because he was rather prolific. But, things like he had some weird ones that were kind of poetic. I think my one was he had the one who said, "In this hole lives the wicked king." I was like, what does that mean? Like, where's he living there? But, he had, the demons wanted my penis. I thought that was a pretty graphic thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to rob her or touch her or rape her. I was just going to kill her. Yeah, that was nice of you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like he had those ones. I think I just posted that recently on the Facebook one because I figured that was in prep for this. What was the one was I wasn't going to rob her or touch her. I just wanted to kill her. I was just going to kill her, right? And then it was like the main one I thought was really descriptive, which was it happens to be it would happen to be satisfying to get to the source of the blood, right? That was a quote from him.
That sounds like
I didn't want to hurt
Dexter
them.
Morgan would say. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't want to hurt them. I only wanted to kill them.
Right.
That's so nice of him. I just like the way he puts things.
What about the other one? What about the other one? He said, I always had a fetish for murder and death. It's just a matter of fact, you know?
Right.
Yeah, that's what he is. Yeah, he just said this shit. Like, it wasn't like a Bundy where it was profound, or H.H. Holmes where it's like shit that's going to live on forever. But some of the things he said, if you really break it down, it was fucking weird. I was literally saying to myself, yeah.
Gacy said a clown can get away with murder. Oh,
right.
And then did for a long time. Yeah. So Berkowitz, I was literally singing to myself on my way home after the killing. I mean, and you know what? The fact that he says this, it matches up exactly to what the cop said about him in prison. Because once he got put in jail, he ate like a horse and slept like a baby. And he didn't give a shit. At least at first. I mean, I know Blake, tends to believe him now that, he's grief-stricken over it. I mean, he might be. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty matter of fact. One of the quotes was, it was just like it should be. You shoot them and they fall, and they fell. Yeah, you're right. Makes sense. You shoot them and they fell.
This is a new quote, and it's still creepy to me, which is weird. The people in the news media used to call me the Son of Sam. And I don't care what anybody says. This is creepy. But God has given me a new name, the Son of Hope, because now my life is about hope. I don't know why that is, but it's weird to me.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy, isn't it?
It is to me. I mean, maybe it's because I'm not religious, and I find shit like that very odd. Like, to say that God told you to do shit, like, it's as weird as telling me that Satan told me to do something, Like, I don't know. I think a lot of times when people say that, they should have their head examined. But then I know a lot of people who say that I respect, so I don't know what to think about shit like that. It's just a different world that I'm not privy to, I guess. Oh, well.
You were talking about David Berkowitz and keeping a log of all those fires that he kept.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm sitting here looking at pages from his journal, going all the way back to I guess this starts April 2nd of 1977, and the location was 82nd Avenue and 217th Street, and it was and he even has the time listed next to it. I mean, addresses and days, and it is very meticulous. Like, he set one on the 26th of May at the river in East 151st Street. I mean, that's very just particular. Over 3,000 journal entries here.
Reminds me of John Doe from 7.
Oh yeah, this says his records. Meticulous record includes the type of equipment responding and weather conditions too. He's even got it done in military time as well, 2,500 hours. 100 hours. He committed the first one in April, and it's really just elaborate.
Just odd. Just really odd. But
this is an old book I'm looking at. I've got one of the old Time Life serial killer books from the early 90s, and it's got Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Berkowitz, and Dennis Nilsen in it. It's crazy.
Nilsen, we got to talk about sometime.
Yeah, he's one of the wild cards a lot of people don't think about. He was actually a police officer for a time.
Mm-hmm. Of course he was.
Scotland Yard, yeah, and he kept them in his flat, under the floorboards and inside sort of like the thing that's in the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like a wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
He kept bodies hanging in there and stuffed them in the septic system and backed up the whole apartment's fucking plumbing, and everybody was pissed off that their plumbing was all jacked up. So the plumber goes down there, opens the lid, and finds a human arm and shit in there and fingers, and it's just all kind of fucked up.
Yeah, his quote was, "I have slain my own dragon." That was a quote from Dennis Nilsen, I remember. And he also had one quote. It's like, I put a head in a pot, popped the lid, and lit the stove. And later I listened to music and had a good drink.
So, Johnny, no judgment. Do you have any serial killer quotes up on your wall anywhere? Because, I mean, that would be kind of a cool, for me, it would be the H.H. Holmes quote. I had beside me, the whole thing.
But I did put out a bunch of T-shirts, serial killer quote T-shirts with them. So that counts.
That's the best.
Yeah. Hey,
I'm sitting here with
the
Keep It Creepy serial killer shirt.
Yeah. My wife brought up a good point, Travis. Have we done a show on Dean Coral yet?
Nope, we have not. And we talked about doing it around Halloween.
We should make it a double feature if you guys ever decide to talk about another Candyman movie, because that's what he was called. Was the candy
Yep,
bear?
that's what I was talking about. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's creepy. Oh.
Yeah, well, I can't help it. That's the type of shit that I'm into, and we all are apparently. So, no apologies around here. But Johnny, you came in and knocked it out of the park as always for us. You lasted with us for an hour and a half. Jesus, I don't know how you can tolerate us drunks for that long. And Blake.
Tequila.
Wow.
There you go.
What a dick.
Blake, you're not drunk. I'm sorry to tell you. I wish you were.
No, and I actually had a previous interaction with Johnny. I took over and hosted the Richard Ramirez show when you were
It's
sick.
when I was dying. And I died for like 3 months after that, and now
because you were a douchebag. Because you were an asshole.
Is that what made me sick?
Yeah, that alcohol.
All right, good deal. So Johnny, I'm going to give you the opportunity to throw out any plugs you want to throw out for us, because as always, we are here for you and your app and everything else.
That's cool, man. So it's just the book I have up on Amazon, on paperback, and on Kindle. It's the Serial Killer Quote of the Day. So I guess that's the only thing I'm going to be plugging.
You doing anything new at all with that, or is it just kind of the business?
It's still
as usual?
there. I'm still there. I mean, we have the Facebook page that's constantly updated, and I'm always getting more quotes. In fact, there was a local story out of Philly. I don't know if it got nationwide coverage. I thought it did. This guy, Cosmos DiNardo, he killed 4 kids and 4 guys, and buried them and burned them on his parents' farm. And even though it didn't span a month, it did span a number of days. Like, he lured them up there and he killed them and such. So we have a new serial killer, guys, in here that I'm probably going to get some quotes from, and I'm trying to contact him to get some interviews. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Very cool. Very cool. Hey, I'm all for that. Hey, let me ask you a question before you head out. Is there any serial killer, and we've talked about Berkowitz, Zodiac, I mean, the big hitters, but we haven't talked about, BTK or Dennis Nilsen or Eileen Wuornos or there's a couple more. Is there anybody that we haven't talked about that you really want to talk about at some point? Because, we'll always have you on when you want to be.
Well, I mean, you talked about I think that he talked about Chikatilo. I thought that guy was a pretty prolific killer, and he was scary. He looked like the Russian version of Panzram. Like, if you saw him, you were probably dead, kind of thing. I think he's a pretty compelling dude to talk about. And BTK Killer, I think, is also a really pretty compelling thing to talk about.
Yay, somebody liked something I said. Awesome, because I'm the one that talked about this pillow for sure. I like that.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Very cool. Well, Johnny, hey, thanks again, buddy. I appreciate it, and I always appreciate you being available for us when you are.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, man. Until next time.
All right. Take care.
And Johnny came in, kicked ass as always. It was a good show for him because he's closest to the area, the scene of the crime than we are. Blake's in Tennessee. What did Vic say you were? The middle of the boonies, Nashville.
Yeah, something like that.
What city are you in in Tennessee now?
Oh man, if I tell you that, there's going to be people all over my ass. But I live in Portland. I'm not in. I'm about 45 minutes away from Nashville. 30 minutes. Excuse me.
Okay. South or north or west or east? Do you know? Because I don't look at maps very often, but I was just curious.
I can't tell you. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know shit like that either, so I'm no better.
Y'all have to come in. You know what? I'm actually only 18 minutes from Franklin, Kentucky, and then another 30 from Bowling Green. So I'm very close to you guys.
Very cool. Blake, so I don't know if you're going to have time next week, but if you get the opportunity, next week we're talking about Deranged from 1970. Well, are we, Vic? That's next week, right? Or are we going to do that at the end of the month? No, we're talking about Scream next week. We're finally doing Scream. We're finally doing Scream. And then Deranged at the end of the month. Yeah. We're going to do Scream next week for the first time. Finally. It's only been forever. But since you're a Wes Craven guy, I thought you might want to come on if you get the opportunity. If not, we understand. So,
I
is there
will do
anything
my
else
best
you want?
Tuesday, right?
Of course.